When we think of nuts, most of us picture a handful tossed into a snack bowl, something casual, small, maybe even insignificant. But the truth is, these tiny foods are some of nature's most concentrated sources of life force. Each one carries within it the blueprint for a whole tree, an entire organism capable of growing, thriving, and regenerating for decades. And that, in itself, is a powerful metaphor for what nuts can do inside the human body, especially after age 50. You see, as we age, our biology begins to change its priorities. The body is no longer focused on rapid growth or reproduction. It begins to prioritize maintenance, repair, and preservation. Every cell becomes more deliberate in its energy use. The immune system becomes selective. The blood vessels that once expanded easily start to stiffen. The skin and muscles lose their youthful resilience, not because we've done something wrong, but because our internal repair systems begin to slow down. And yet, nature has given us foods that speak directly to these systems, foods that reawaken them. Nuts are one of those foods. Dr. Lee often says, eat to activate, not to restrict. That's exactly what nuts do. They activate. When you eat a walnut, an almond, or a pistachio, you're not just consuming calories. You're sending signals, biochemical instructions that tell your body how to protect itself. The omega-3 fatty acids in walnuts, for instance, activate stem cells in the brain, improving cognitive resilience. Vitamin E in almonds helps repair cell membranes, guarding them against oxidative damage. These aren't vague ideas, they're measurable effects observed in real clinical studies. Nuts don't just sit in your stomach. They speak to your genes, your microbiome, and your metabolism. But the story goes even deeper than science. There's a philosophy in how these foods work, a reflection of nature's intelligence. A nut's power lies in its potential. Every kernel is designed to protect what's precious inside layers of fiber, antioxidants, and fat-soluble nutrients that resist decay. It's this protective structure that mirrors what our bodies crave after 50, defense and renewal. When you eat nuts, you're consuming nature's architecture of endurance. You're borrowing a design that has survived for millennia. Now, many people worry about the fat in nuts. They hear the word fat and immediately think of something to avoid. But this is where wisdom comes in. The fats in nuts are intelligent fats, the kind that stabilize hormones, lower LDL cholesterol, and nourish the cell membranes that keep your organs young. They're the opposite of the industrial fats that flood modern diets. These fats don't clog, they cleanse. They teach your metabolism how to burn cleanly and efficiently. That's the beauty of natural design. Balance is built in. After 50, the body doesn't need more restriction. It needs restoration. And nuts, in their pure form, are restoration embodied. They're small, portable, unprocessed, the most minimalistic form of nourishment you can find. They carry not only nutrients, but also a philosophy of simplicity. You don't need a long ingredient list to heal. You need honesty in what you eat. Think about how you feel when you eat consciously. When you chew slowly, taste the richness, feel the crunch. Something in your body relaxes. You're not just feeding hunger, you're participating in a ritual of renewal. That moment of awareness is medicine in itself. It lowers stress hormones, improves digestion, and even changes how your body absorbs nutrients. In a world obsessed with speed, nuts invite us to slow down, to reconnect with the ancient rhythm of nourishment. So, as we begin this conversation about the foods that help us thrive after 50, start by remembering this greatness often comes in small forms. The power to protect your heart, your brain, and your longevity doesn't have to come from something exotic or expensive. It can come from a handful of walnuts in the morning or a few almonds after a walk. Because health isn't built through grand gestures, it's built through consistent choices. And sometimes the smallest foods carry the biggest answers. A single handful of nuts won't just feed your body, it will remind it how to live. When we talk about thriving after 50, we often focus on what the body begins to lose: muscle, energy, hormonal balance, and sometimes even motivation. But what if the focus shifted from loss to activation? What if the foods we eat could turn on the body's hidden systems of repair and protection? That's the story behind the four nuts that Dr. William Le calls longevity superfoods. These aren't just tasty snacks, they are biological tools, precision engineered by nature to restore what time tries to take away. Let's start with walnuts, the brain nut, as many call them. The resemblance between the walnut's shape and the human brain isn't just poetic coincidence. It's symbolic of its role in protecting cognitive health. Walnuts are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, particularly alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, which nourishes the membranes of brain cells. As we age, these membranes tend to stiffen, slowing down communication between neurons. But omega-3s keep them flexible, ensuring that thought, memory, and creativity remain fluid. Studies have shown that regular walnut eaters perform better on memory and processing speed tests, and they experience less age-related cognitive decline. Dr. Lai often explains that omega-3s activate angiogenesis, the growth of healthy blood vessels, keeping oxygen and nutrients flowing freely through the brain. So each time you eat a walnut, you're strengthening your brain's infrastructure, ensuring clarity and vitality long into your later years. Next comes the almond, the heart's ally. Almonds are rich in vitamin E, a fat-soluble antioxidant that protects cells from oxidative stress, one of the main drivers of aging. After 50, oxidative damage accelerates in the cardiovascular system, stiffening arteries and impairing circulation. Almonds act as a natural shield, keeping the endothelium, the inner lining of blood vessels, elastic and responsive. They also balance cholesterol levels by lowering LDLs, a bad cholesterol, and raising HDLs, good cholesterol. But beyond the numbers, almonds do something more profound. They teach your metabolism efficiency. They stabilize blood sugar and reduce post-meal glucose spikes, protecting against insulin resistance, one of the silent accelerators of aging. When you eat almonds consistently, your body learns to stay in a state of calm stability rather than stress and fluctuation. Then there's pistachios, perhaps the most underestimated nut in the group. Their bright green color comes from lutein, a powerful carotenoid that protects the eyes and skin, two areas where aging shows first. Pistachios are also rich in plant-based proteins and prebiotic fibers that feed beneficial gut bacteria. The gut, as Dr. Lee often emphasizes, is the command center of health. When the microbiome is thriving, inflammation goes down, mood stabilizes, and immunity strengthens. In fact, research shows that pistachios promote the growth of Akkermansia mucinifera, a bacterium linked to metabolic health and fat regulation. So, when you snack on pistachios, you're not just supporting your heart and muscles, you're feeding your inner ecosystem, aligning your body's internal chemistry with longevity. Finally, we come to Brazil nuts, the most powerful of all, but also the one that demands respect. Just one or two a day can provide your full daily requirement of selenium, a mineral critical for antioxidant defense. Selenium activates enzymes like glutathione peroxidase, which neutralizes free radicals and repairs DNA damage. This is especially vital for the thyroid, the body's metabolic control center. As we age, the thyroid can become sluggish, slowing down everything from energy levels to mood. Brazil nuts act like a spark plug, restoring thyroid efficiency, sharpening metabolism, and reinforcing immunity. But they're potent, so balance matters. Too much selenium can be harmful, which is why wisdom, not excess, defines longevity. Together, these four nuts form a symphony of protection. Walnuts for the brain, almonds for the heart, pistachios for the gut, Brazil nuts for the metabolism. They target the four dimensions of aging cognition, circulation, digestion, and cellular repair. But more than that, they represent a philosophy that food is not about deprivation, but activation. When you eat these nuts regularly and consciously, you're not just nourishing your body, you're giving your cells a daily reminder of how to thrive. And there's something poetic about it. Each of these nuts is small, humble, and ancient, yet inside them lies the wisdom of evolution. They carry the codes of survival, the ability to endure drought, to sprout in harsh conditions, to regenerate after dormancy. When you consume them, you take that resilience into yourself. You align with nature's enduring intelligence. So, if you want to thrive after 50, don't look for miracles in laboratories or trends on supermarket shelves. Look at what's been quietly sustaining life for thousands of years: walnuts, almonds, pistachios, and Brazil nuts, nature's original bioengineers. Because thriving after 50 isn't about resisting age, it's about remembering how to grow stronger with it. It's easy to think that all nuts are healthy. After all, they come from nature, they're plant based, and they've earned a reputation as good fats. But as Dr. William Lee often reminds us, not everything that starts natural stays natural. What we do to our food, how we process it, cook it, or sweeten it, can completely transform its impact on our biology. And when it comes to nuts, this truth becomes especially critical after the age of 50. See, the body over 50 becomes less forgiving. The systems that once compensated for inflammation, oxidative stress, and blood sugar imbalances begin to slow. This doesn't mean decline is inevitable. It means precision matters more than ever. So when we take something naturally powerful like a raw walnut or almond and coat it with sugar, salt, or oil, we're not just changing its taste, we're rewriting its biological script. A food that once reduced inflammation now promotes it. A food that once protected arteries now begins to erode them. That is the danger of what Dr. Lee calls the risky picks, nuts that have lost their integrity through human interference. Let's start with the most deceptive version: candied nuts. They may look harmless, even festive, but the sugar coating turns them into little metabolic landmines. Refined sugar triggers insulin spikes, encourages fat storage, and feeds inflammatory pathways. In the process, it cancels out the very benefits that nuts are supposed to provide: the stable energy, the healthy fats, the antioxidant protection. Over time, these sugar-laden snacks contribute to the very conditions we're trying to prevent: insulin resistance, weight gain, and accelerated aging. After 50, when metabolic flexibility begins to wane, even small, consistent doses of added sugar can quietly shift the body into a pro-aging state. Then there are salted nuts, which are often marketed as lightly salted, but pack more sodium than you'd expect. Excess sodium stiffens blood vessels, increases blood pressure, and dehydrates cells, directly undermining cardiovascular health. The irony is painful. The same almonds or pistachios that could keep your arteries youthful are turned against you with just a dusting of salt. For seniors, this becomes even more dangerous. The kidneys, which naturally filter sodium, lose efficiency with age. That means even moderate overconsumption of salted nuts can cause fluid retention, swelling, and elevated blood pressure. Nature designed nuts to be a stabilizer. Processing turns them into a stressor. Next are the fried or oil roasted nuts, the ones that often appear glossy and golden in store shelves. These nuts are typically fried in industrial seed oils, such as canola, sunflower, or soybean oil. These oils are high in omega-6 fatty acids, which in excess create inflammation and oxidative stress. Instead of providing anti-inflammatory omega-3s, these nuts flood the body with compounds that accelerate cellular wear. What's worse, the heat from frying damages the delicate unsaturated fats inside the nuts, generating free radicals. The same molecules responsible for aging skin, stiffening joints, and damaging DNA. The result: a food that once extended your health span now shortens it molecule by molecule. And then there's the most seductive of all flavor-coated nuts: honey roasted, barbecue, chocolate, covered, or maple smoked. These products are designed to hijack the brain's reward system. The combination of sugar, fat, and artificial flavoring stimulates dopamine in the same way as processed junk food. It creates a craving loop, a subtle addiction that keeps you reaching for more. But the psychological damage runs deeper. These flavors numb your palate to the natural taste of food. Over time, the brain begins to associate pleasure with artificial intensity rather than real nourishment. That disconnect between body and mind, between eating and feeling, is one of the silent roots of modern aging. So, the real danger in these risky nuts isn't just chemical, it's philosophical. It's about losing the connection between nature and nourishment. We take something whole, pure and complete, and we manipulate it to fit the modern desire for speed, flavor, and stimulation. And in doing so, we strip it of its wisdom. After 50, food should not excite the senses at the cost of exhausting the body. It should restore you, not overstimulate you. That's why awareness matters so much. When you reach for a handful of nuts, you're not just choosing a snack. You're choosing how your body will age. Are you feeding your longevity or feeding your inflammation? Are you honoring nature's design or trying to outsmart it? Dr. Lai often says, the closer a food is to its natural state, the closer it is to medicine. That's the compass to follow. Raw, unsalted, uncoated, and unprocessed nuts, these are the real allies. Everything else is a distraction, a seduction of modern packaging that disguises decay as delight. And maybe that's the greater lesson here. Longevity is not about adding more, it's about subtracting the unnecessary. When you strip away the coatings, the flavorings, the excess, what's left is purity, and purity is what the body recognizes as truth. Because when it comes to aging well, the less you interfere with nature, the more she works for you. When we talk about food, most people think in terms of calories, vitamins, or protein. But as Dr. William Li teaches, the real magic of nutrition happens at a much deeper level, at the level of communication. Every bite of food you eat carries information, signals that tell your cells what to do, whether to repair, to grow, to protect, or to rest. Food is not just nourishment, it's language. And nuts in particular speak that language fluently. They are tiny messengers full of molecules that interact directly with your body's systems. When eaten with awareness, they don't just feed you. They instruct you. Think about what happens when you eat a handful of walnuts. Within minutes, your digestive system begins breaking them down, releasing omega-3 fatty acids, polyphenols, and amino acids into your bloodstream. But those compounds don't just circulate aimlessly. They seek out specific receptors, switch on genetic pathways, and modulate hormones. Walnuts, for example, activate the PI3K ACT pathway, which helps cells survive stress and resist aging. They also stimulate the production of nitric oxide, which relaxes blood vessels, improving circulation and oxygen flow. In other words, they talk to your arteries in your brain, telling them to stay flexible, open, and alive. This is the essence of nutritional activation, the idea that food can awaken dormant healing systems. Nuts are rich in polyphenols, plant compounds that act like keys, unlocking the body's built-in repair mechanisms. Almonds, for instance, contain catechins and flavonoids that reduce inflammation at the endothelial level, the thin inner lining of blood vessels. When inflammation in that lining drops, blood pressure stabilizes and circulation improves. At the same time, the body produces fewer free radicals, unstable molecules that cause cellular aging. You're not just preventing disease, you're rewriting your biological trajectory toward renewal. The process goes even deeper through the gut-brain axis, a system that connects your digestive health to your mental and emotional balance. When you eat nuts like pistachios or almonds, their fiber and prebiotic compounds feed beneficial gut bacteria. These microbes then release short-chain fatty acids, natural chemicals that calm inflammation, enhance insulin sensitivity, and even improve mood by influencing neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. The food literally changes the way your mind feels and your body responds. That's why Dr. Lai often says, the gut is not just where digestion happens, it's where communication begins. And then there's angiogenesis, one of Dr. Lai's most profound areas of research, the process by which the body grows new blood vessels to heal itself. Certain nuts, particularly walnuts and pistachios, contain bioactives that fine-tune this process, ensuring that new vessels form where needed for wound healing, muscle repair, or heart health, while suppressing the abnormal vessel growth that can fuel diseases like cancer or diabetes. This is a perfect example of nature's intelligence. These foods don't just act broadly, they act precisely, supporting balance rather than excess. What's truly remarkable is how these mechanisms mirror human psychology. Just as nuts communicate with cells, we must learn to communicate with our own biology, to listen to it, respect it, and respond with intention. Every ache, every dip in energy, every craving is a message. Food is one of the most direct ways we can answer those messages. When you eat a food that supports your natural rhythms, you're engaging in a dialogue of harmony. When you eat carelessly, processed, fried, overloaded foods, you drown out that dialogue with static. After 50, the stakes of this communication grow higher. The body's signals become subtler but more significant. A spike in blood sugar isn't just about dessert. It's your body saying, I can't process this the way I used to. A bout of fatigue isn't weakness, it's feedback. Nuts, when chosen and consumed wisely, are a way of answering that feedback with understanding. They stabilize repair and teach your body resilience. And there's something beautiful about this idea that our health depends not just on what we take in, but on how well we listen. The science of activation isn't just biology, it's mindfulness expressed through molecules. When you eat a handful of almonds, you're not simply consuming nutrients. You're participating in a biochemical conversation that's been happening since the beginning of life between nature and the human body. So when you look at a simple walnut or pistachio, don't underestimate what you're seeing. Inside that shell is a living intelligence, a message crafted by evolution, waiting to align with yours. Because when you eat with awareness, food stops being just matter. It becomes meaning. And in that meaning lies your body's deepest power to heal. If there's one thing that aging teaches us, it's that balance becomes more powerful than intensity. After 50, the body doesn't crave excess. It craves harmony. The foods that once gave you quick energy or short-term pleasure may no longer serve your long-term vitality. Instead, what your body needs now is rhythm, the kind of steady, intelligent nourishment that restores, not depletes. And this is where the philosophy of synergy and moderation comes alive. Nuts, when eaten wisely, are a masterclass in that philosophy. They don't overwhelm the system with sugar or starch. They release energy slowly, engage your metabolism gently, and work best when paired with other whole, unprocessed foods. In fact, one of the most fascinating discoveries in nutritional science is that foods are not isolated actors. They perform best as part of an ensemble. When you eat them together in the right combinations, they amplify one another's benefits. This is what Dr. William Lee calls synergistic eating. Let's take a simple example. When you pair nuts with fruits, you create balance. The natural sugars in fruit give you quick energy, but the healthy fats and fiber in nuts slow that sugar's absorption. The result? No blood sugar spike, no crash, just sustained, stable energy. Add in a handful of berries with almonds, and you get an antioxidant powerhouse, vitamin C from the berries regenerating the vitamin E in the almonds, doubling their protective power. You see, nature doesn't make isolated nutrients. It makes systems, relationships, and cooperation. The same applies when you combine nuts with whole grains or legumes. Together, they complete the amino acid profile, forming a more complete plant-based protein. A bowl of oatmeal with walnuts in the morning or lentils topped with pistachios at dinner isn't just delicious. It's biochemistry working in your favor. The fiber from the grains or beans feeds your gut microbes, while the fats from the nuts help absorb fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, and K. Your body isn't just nourished, it's optimized. But just as synergy multiplies benefits, excess can quietly undo them. That's why moderation matters just as much. A handful of nuts a day, about an ounce, has been shown to reduce inflammation, support heart health, and lengthen lifespan. Double or triple that, and the benefits start to reverse. The body begins to store rather than utilize, and the digestive system feels burdened. The lesson here isn't to fear food, it's to respect proportion. In nature, everything thrives in balance, and so do we. This concept goes beyond nutrition. It's a reflection of how longevity itself works. The key to living well after 50 isn't to push harder, eat more, or chase extreme diets. It's to listen to the natural rhythm of your body. When you eat slowly, chew intentionally, and stop when satisfied, Your body releases hormones like leptin and ghrelin that regulate hunger and metabolism. This is why Dr. Lee often says that the act of eating can be medicine itself. Moderation and mindfulness turn an ordinary meal into a therapeutic experience. And when you extend that awareness to your overall diet, you begin to see the bigger picture. You realize that food synergy mirrors life synergy. You can't have health in isolation. It depends on connection between foods, between organs, between thoughts, even between your choices and your values. Eating becomes not just a biological act, but a philosophical one. It's about cooperation, respect, and humility toward nature's design. When you combine nuts with vibrant plants, clean proteins, and whole grains, you're essentially recreating what nature intended: balance, diversity, and depth. You're not chasing nutrients anymore, you're cultivating harmony. And harmony is the deepest form of strength. For people over 50, this approach carries profound implications. Your metabolism may slow, but your capacity for awareness expands. You can make choices with more clarity, not impulse. You can build meals that feel good not just in the moment, but hours later. And that's what real vitality feels like: consistency, steadiness, the quiet confidence of a body that's aligned with itself. So think of synergy and moderation not as limits, but as forms of wisdom, the wisdom to know that less can be more, and that simple combinations can unlock extraordinary effects. Because longevity isn't built on how much you eat, but on how everything you eat works together. Eat with rhythm, not rush. Combine with care, not chaos. Because when your food lives in balance, so do you. At the heart of every conversation about longevity, there lies a question most people overlook. What kind of energy do you want your body to carry as you age? Not just in the physical sense, though muscle, endurance, and heart health matter deeply, but in the sense of how alive you feel in your own body. The foods you choose after 50 don't just shape your biology, they shape your presence in the world. And this is where the wisdom of discernment comes in: the ability to choose not only what to eat, but what not to eat. Dr. William Lai often reminds us that not all healthy foods are healthy for everyone all the time. It's a simple but profound truth. Certain foods that might seem harmless or even nutritious can turn problematic as the body changes with age. The metabolism slows down, the digestive system becomes more sensitive, and the immune system, while still powerful, becomes more reactive. This means that the very same nuts that support one person's vitality could, in excess or in the wrong context, hinder another's. Let's start with one of the biggest culprits: flavored or salted nuts. They may look like an innocent snack, but beneath that shiny coating often lies an overload of sodium, added sugars, and artificial flavorings. After 50, high sodium intake can accelerate hypertension and fluid retention, both of which place unnecessary strain on the heart and kidneys. The delicate communication between your arteries and your brain, something Dr. Lee calls the vascular conversation, starts to falter under that pressure. Over time, that can dull mental clarity, raise blood pressure, and fatigue the system that once functioned with grace. Then there are candied and chocolate coated nuts marketed as energy boosters. These versions often drown the natural health benefits of nuts in processed sugar and trans fats. The spike in glucose that follows may temporarily energize, but it's followed by a crash that leaves the body more inflamed, the blood vessels more rigid, and insulin sensitivity reduced. For a person past 50, where maintaining steady metabolism is key to preventing conditions like diabetes and cardiovascular decline, this is like pouring sand into the gears of a fine machine. Another category that deserves caution is nut oils, particularly when overheated or used excessively. While cold, pressed oils like walnut or almond can be beneficial in moderation, subjecting them to high temperatures can oxidize their delicate fats, turning them into compounds that promote inflammation rather than reduce it. This silent shift from anti-inflammatory to pro-inflammatory is what makes awareness so important. Food is dynamic. It changes depending on how we prepare it, and so must our understanding of it. Lastly, there's the issue of overconsumption, even of the right kinds of nuts, the modern mindset of more is better. often disguises itself as health enthusiasm. But after 50, balance is everything. The body no longer needs large surges of fat or protein, it needs efficiency. A handful of mixed nuts, not a bowl, delivers more than enough. The body uses what it needs and excess becomes burden. This, then, is the larger point. Health is not about constant addition, it's about refinement. It's about subtraction, knowing what to leave out, what to limit, what to let go of. There's wisdom in restraint because in every act of conscious, you free your biology from confusion. You restore clarity to your system. You allow your cells to function without interference. And it's not just about the physical toxins, it's about the energetic ones. Every time you eat mindlessly, under stress, or out of habit, you send chaotic signals to your body. But when you eat deliberately, choosing clean, natural, unprocessed foods, you send a signal of peace, one that your cells recognize and mirror. Your body starts to move differently, your mind clears, your energy steadies. Dr. Lai's philosophy isn't merely about extending lifespan, it's about extending health span, the years of life where you feel fully alive, strong, and capable. Avoiding harmful choices, whether in food or mindset, is as vital to that mission as embracing beneficial ones. And here's the truth few acknowledge. Aging well is not a passive process. It's an art. It's sculpted through awareness, built through discipline, and refined through compassion for your own body. You are both the artist and the medium. Every meal is a brushstroke. Every choice is a line in the portrait of your future self. So, as you reach for that handful of nuts, remember, it's not just what's in your hand that matters, but what's not. The foods you choose to avoid speak as loudly as the ones you embrace. Because longevity isn't only built by what you add, it's perfected by what you choose to leave behind.